out today. My name is Dr. Bill Andahazy. I am the Northeast Regional Coordinator for the Penn State Launchbox Network. If you're not familiar with the Launchbox concept, we are a very early stage entrepreneurial support organization. So come to us at the idea stage. We can work you through and help you build the sustainable building blocks for that business. Thanks for being here. It's lunchtime session today. We're excited to bring together a group of individuals who have not only generated great ideas, but have successfully turned their ideas into action by launching, growing, and sustaining their work into meaningful ways. Today's conversation is all about real experiences, the challenges, lessons learned, and the strategies that helped move ideas forward. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your next step, we hope this discussion provides practical insight and inspiration. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. Our first panelist is Gail Merrick. Gail is the founder and CEO of Back Mountain Microgreens with her husband Luke. Back Mountain Microgreens is a controlled environment agricultural farm in Foley Fort where edible flowers and microgreens are grown. These products lend themselves spectacularly to creating visually appealing, delicious, and healthy meals. Gail and Luke believe in living, working, and growing in faith. They grow by cultivating great relationships with the customers and the community that they serve. And they connect with people through their products and their farm. When people need fresh, flavorful, high-quality microgreens and edible flowers, our newly reimagined, nutrient-dense products derived from them, Back Mountain Microgreens is here year-round. Our next panelist is Dr. Kimberly Carpenter. Dr. Carpenter has been a physical therapist for over 30 years, earning both her master's and doctoral degrees in physical therapy. She has worked at prestigious institutions such as Temple University Hospital and Moss Rehabilitation Hospital in Philadelphia before returning to the area to work as a clinic supervisor for GEM Therapeutics and Riverside Rehabilitation. Kim is considered a master clinician and serves as a clinical instructor for local doctoral students. She is regularly invited to lecture at local universities and organizations. In 2019, Kim decided to leave corporate healthcare to open her own clinic. A year later, as COVID was shutting down the world, Specialty Physical Therapy in the Midway Shopping Center in Wyoming, Pennsylvania, opened its doors. With a byline of excellence and integrity, Kim and her staff are helping to put humanity and excellence back into healthcare. Our third panelist tonight is Jacob Kelly. Jacob is a highly respected educator, consultant, and advocate specializing in LGBTQIA+ inclusion and diversity, equity, and inclusion. As the founder and CEO of McKelly Queer Education LLC, Jacob provides tailored workshops, training, and impactful storytelling to empower individuals and organizations. Their work is grounded in extensive academic experience as they pursue a PhD in human sexuality at Widener University with a research focus on non-binary gender identity and development. Jacob also holds a Master of Education in Human Sexuality Education and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Communication Studies. Jacob's advocacy spans multiple areas, including workplace culture, DEI strategic planning, student engagement, and inclusive leadership. With certifications in DEIB, global strategies, and DEI in the workplace, they bring a systemic approach to fostering inclusive environments. Jacob has shared their experience at national conferences, universities, and community events, inspiring sustainable progress. Their contributions have earned them recognition, including the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Young Professionals of the Wyoming Valley Region Award and the Pride Champion of Northeastern Pennsylvania honor. A trailblazer in community leadership, Jacob spearheaded the first ever Pride events in North Central Pennsylvania and has gained national recognition for establishing queer safe spaces in rural areas. They actively serve on the boards of the Pennsylvania Trans Equality Project, the NEPA Pride Project, and I Picture Hope, furthering their commitment to LGBTQIA+ rights at both local and national levels. Jacob continues to drive change, ensuring equity and belonging for all. And finally, our last panelist is Jeremy Ziller. Jeremy is a U.S. Army veteran with over 15 years of military experience. He's the founder of Z&S Construction. Since 2020, he has grown his company from a landscaping and construction startup into a diversified service provider across Northeast Pennsylvania. His work is rooted in reliability, operational discipline, and a long-term approach to building sustainable business and strong client relationships. His company specializes in excavation, site development, concrete work and masonry, delivering military precision and hands-on expertise to every project. Now, I'd like to invite Dorothy Lane, Director of Wilkes University's Small Business Development Center, to the stage and welcome her as our moderator today. Dorothy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you being here today, and I am just going to give a quick plug about the SBDC and what we do. For those of you who don't know, that we have 15 SBDCs in the state of Pennsylvania. Every county in the Commonwealth is covered by a small business development center, and we work with individuals who are looking to start their own business, and we also work with existing small businesses to help them grow, expand, with any issues that they might be having. And we always say, if we don't know the answer to your question that you might have, we're a great connector, and we can refer you to the proper people who will give you that answer and information that you need. And I should also say we're funded by the SBA and DCED, and all of our services are provided at no cost. So if you need anything, just reach out to us. But I'm excited to chat with all of our folks today and hear about their stories on how they started their businesses and have successfully grown them over the years. And as I always tell our clients when they come into our office, starting a business is not for the faint of heart. There is a lot of hard work that goes into it. Those first couple of years are very trying. As I said, it really takes a lot of perseverance to move it forward. So that's where I'm going to start with the questions today. The first question that I have for you, and we can just go down the line, and if you have an answer, great. And as I said before, if you're not sure about what you want to say, you can say pass, and we can come back to you, or, very conversational and no pressure. So I'm going to ask, so what was the biggest challenge that each of you faced when you were starting your business, and how did you overcome it?
Well, so for me, the biggest challenge would have been time. I was still on active when I started my business, and I had 6 months where I was local, and then I moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and I ran my business from 5 hours away. So I would get up every Monday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, drive to Ohio, stay in my apartment, do my active duty piece, and I'd cut my guys loose at Friday at 1 o'clock. I still had a mission there to accomplish. I would pack, and then I would work for Z&S on Saturday and Sunday. So we were a much smaller organization then. We started with a lawnmower, and we doubled our income every year. And then finally in 2023, I retired from active duty, and I was able to invest more time. But it's time when it comes to small business.
So we kind of reverse engineered Back Mountain Microgreens. We had no idea what we wanted to do originally. We knew we wanted to base our business on our faith. and that was going to be the guiding light, but we had no idea how we were going to actually interact with people or what we were going to sell. My husband Luke and I couldn't agree. He would come up with an idea, I wouldn't be for it. I would come up with an idea, and he would just kind of scoff at it. So it took us a while to figure out microgreens. And I remember one day standing, looking out one of our windows, looking at a houseplant and thinking, these things just multiply like crazy. And so I had plants in my head. And I think within like literally 5 minutes, he walked up to me and said, "What about microgreens?" And it was, at the time we had chickens, and it was kind of related to a video that he had watched about the chickens, and you could feed your chickens by growing these things like really quickly. And we just kind of looked at each other and laughed and thought, okay, we're not arguing, we agree. And so that kind of started as a side gig and just went from there. But the hardest part was definitely just coming up with the actual path. We had the abstract idea where we wanted, our foundation, and we needed like the concrete steps forward. So yeah, it was just identifying how we were going to go about it.
Our biggest challenge starting, I say our, it's actually me, it was everybody saying no to you. We had just no's came from every angle, from financing to location to put a business, and the way we overcame it is we did not accept no. Like, no is an answer for other people. Like, that their no doesn't make my no, and I didn't let their no be my no. My my answer was yes every single time. So I learned to confront was a big thing I learned in the first couple years, and I was able just to say to people, I was able to confront them. I'm like, if this isn't going to be a yes, then I need to move on to someone who's going to say yes to me, and I'm not going to let a barrier get in my way. And that was the biggest, that went across the board. Every obstacle that came up, the answer was yes. I just had to figure out how that was going to be a yes.
I would say my biggest challenge when starting was myself in the understanding of imposter syndrome, believing and knowing the skills I had. I was a person of action and verbs, right? So I already had people calling me, "Can you come train us? Can you come teach us? Can you come speak with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And once it got to a point that I was like, I need to do something with this. And when I started my business of thinking of like the name, all of that, like to me that's the fun part. It was sitting there at night, I would say, by myself going, am I really going to do this? Like, do I have what it takes? And in the very beginning, I had to quickly learn how to build a shift in my own sense of self of like, if I'm going to say I'm going to do it, I have to. And that internal dialogue for myself and feeling like, it was a sensation of like, am I good enough to do this? Am I skilled enough to do this? Am I capable of going forward? And the answer was yes. The question was, to what degree will I let go of those doubts and fears?
Thank you all. Good responses, and I think the consultants in our office have heard variations of all of those things over the years. My next question, and I know Kim probably has a good answer to this one, but I'm going to say, lots of times when businesses start, they think they have a clear path forward of what they're going to be doing. And oftentimes there are obstacles or challenges that come up, and you have to figure out how you're going to pivot. And I know Kim started right during the beginning of COVID, and I know that was a huge challenge to her. But if you want to start, Kim, and then come back and go around.
Yeah, our business plan was already in effect prior to COVID. So everything was already in action. And so COVID started right at the time that we were finishing up our build out. And so we are paying rent, we are paying for the equipment we ordered that got delivered. We didn't have a choice. You have to do it. And fortunately, what got us through is we had a business plan, and we stuck very closely to the business plan, and it was very, very specific. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more because the Small Business Development Center was instrumental in creating that with me. And we just stuck to that plan. And again, I didn't let anybody say no. And by following by following the plan, we were able to get through all the obstacles. And I was so grateful to have that plan and be very, very specific. And even with COVID, even being delayed, we met every one of our goals at the end of the first year.
Awesome. I don't know which way you want to go.
So when we first started, we signed up to a bunch of classes, learn how to market, learn how to grow microgreens, and the word that stands out to me in the question you asked is pivot. And so what works, what doesn't. So previously I had signed up to classes on how to sell, and one of the most important things that I took away from that was tracking everything. So I am very much behind the scenes. I do the computer work, I look at the numbers, and based on the numbers, Luke and I look and decide, well, is what we're doing working? And so as far as pivoting, with business growth, I kind of look at it like a set of stairs. You go up, and there's this flurry of activity, and all this crazy stuff happens, and then you hit a tread, and it's like a lull, nothing happens. And so we kind of just learned to go with the crazy when the crazy's happening, be thankful for it, and then when things kind of slow down, that's when we go back and we really examine the numbers. What's working, what's not, where should we pivot? And one of the biggest things that pivoted for us was, all the classes that we were taking were from people in really big metropolitan areas who have a ton of places to sell microgreens, like restaurants and things like that. We're in rural PA for the most part. There's not a huge variety of a lot of, Michelin star restaurants around here. And so it was a totally different trajectory for us. And so we decided, well, maybe we should look into stable items, because trying to push something that's fresh and that doesn't last that long on the shelf, relatively speaking, was something that, wasn't going to work for us to only sell fresh items. And that's when we kind of decided to pivot. And, the whole stair analogy, it was easy for us to go with the crazy for a little bit, but we need to continue to grow. And so the pivot was really in recognizing, looking at the numbers and thinking, only selling fresh isn't working for us. And there have been other pivots like that as well. But I think the big thing is just taking the time in the slow times to evaluate what we're doing and what needs to change to kind of move the business forward. So.
I have a little bit different philosophy on pivoting and plans and planning. 20 years experience in the Army, I realized that a plan is a great roadmap, but if you stick to your plan, a lot of times your plan is only going to keep you within your left and your right limits. So does it meet your organization's goals? Does it meet your organization's values, and will it meet your end state? And if those answers are yes, then it's something that you can do. But if you stick with a rigid plan, you're going to miss multiple opportunities. Our first year we cut grass. Our second year we poured concrete around swimming pools. 2 years after that we dug houses. We dug foundations for houses. Whatever you don't dictate the market dictates what you do. And every year when it comes to finances and what money your customers have, it's going to change. But if you stay rigid, you can't be married to your plans, because you don't own the market. The buyer owns the market.
I would say for myself, and where I can capture a moment where I pivoted, was when I realized I was great at what I was doing. I was getting these opportunities to come train, to speak in small organizations or institutions, but it wasn't happening enough where I felt satisfied. So I took the strength of being an entertainer. I'm a drag performer. I've been doing it for 12 years. I've been an entertainer my whole life. And I said, this gets me a platform I've already built. I have the years building it. And I said, what if I combine my education? That's what I'm talking about, the spark. Build my education and the work that I do into drag. And I looked at, who would want this? And so I combined those two ideas and started in 2023 a college tour, because I knew the ends of higher education. And so I pitched an idea to actually Penn State. I knew a few people, and they sent it out to 8 of their campuses. 6 out of the 8 recommended, and then those then led to everywhere it's going. But if I didn't pivot at that moment where I sat there, I'm like, how do I get more? I have all the things, I have all my plans, but why is it not working? And so for me, it was combining a strength I already built to get my foot in the door, because now I can go back. I don't need drag. I myself, I can do the education and services that I want. They just needed to know my name first.
So that leads me to our next question, which is, what role did partnerships or community support play in growing your work?
For myself, it's everything. I am a community, I'm not a business person. I'm a person who cares about my community, not just related to my identity, but the entire community. It originally was like Northeast PA, but now I can truly say the state, nationally, in the world. If there's one piece of advice around that of how the community supports is, look bigger than your backyard. You'll find more community. And for myself, it was my friends, family. It was people who knew my name and was like, you inspired me and I'm gonna put my trust into you. And if it wasn't for the people in the community who put their trust in me, I would have never gotten as far as I did today.
I think the community support and the different organizations in the community were really vital. I mentioned the Small Business Development Center. That was crucial to putting together my business plan. And one of the reasons it was crucial is because I needed funding. And the business plan is absolutely necessary for large funding. And so that was great. And as a little plug, I mean, that's a free service. And it's amazing. And I actually brought the business plan that they put together for me, so I can pull it out and show anybody who wants to look at it. My life's an open book. My business is an open book. You can see it. It was amazing. And then also, I got involved in business networking groups. I got involved in a women business networking group and another professional business networking group. And that accounted for 17% of my business in the first year for that just one group alone. So that was really critical.
There's kind of two directions that we could go with this for Back Mountain Microgreens. So the first, from my perspective, the numbers game always comes down to funding, because at the end of the day, we can't really grow if we can't improve our infrastructure or our support systems, things like that. For me, one of the biggest differences was a really quick last-minute conversation with Clancy from Food Dignity on writing grants. We were awarded a grant a few months ago. We still haven't actually gone through the process yet to gain the equipment, but the PA small business, boy, it's escaping me right now, the name of it. But anyway, it's going to allow us to buy a fryer that's really going to improve our production processes, offer a lot more efficiency than what we have right now. And that whole experience of just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off and writing the first grant and having, we awarded the funding was just amazing, because it opens up a whole world for us. And that grant was a 50-50 grant, so we, or maybe it was a little bit more than that. The numbers are a little bit out of my realm right now. But anyway, the whole point was just getting the award. I never in a million years expected to actually get the award. And so that was really huge for us. We only asked for, kind of a small amount relative to what we were allowed to ask for that specific grant. And now I just recently submitted a second grant for a much bigger project. The first was for a freeze dryer. This is for a grow room, which is a much larger capital investment. And I'm writing a grant application right now to also request funding for potentially a vehicle refrigeration system and a lot of new equipment that'll help us, expand our delivery area. And so, really thankful for that. Really thankful to Clancy for that. But from the other end of it, it's all back to relationships. And so that's mainly on my husband, Luke. He's the one out there in the community interacting with our customers. And I can't say enough about word of mouth. People that write us positive reviews, just being able to interact with them on a personal level, serve them however they need, and listen to them. He goes out on sales calls, but at the same time, it's just starting a relationship. We get to know people, and customers have totally different needs. Two restaurants may need something very different. And so just kind of taking their feedback, learning from what they tell us, and just the personal connection is really awesome. So.
Yeah, networking is extremely important. I was an instructor for the Army Recruiting College. I ran recruiting organizations for 10 years, and I would tell my recruiters that When you leave after this 3-year assignment, you should be able to go out into your footprint and run for mayor or some type of political office. You have to shake every person's hand that you meet, and you have to tell everybody your 30-second elevator pitch. The very first person I talked to about ZNS was Lucy. And Lucy brought me up here today, and that was 6 years ago. And I send her referrals. I'm the president of a VFW, and I send her veterans to get their EIN numbers and their LLCs done all the time. You never know which conversation is going to make a difference in your organization or which conversation is going to make a difference in somebody else's organization. You should strive to dominate within a 10-mile radius. We've installed Babe Ruth fields for free. We've redone Little League fields for free. Every time that there's a field cleanup, we take machinery and we donate machinery and machinery time. And I've gotten plenty of work for that. I plow snow for the local VFW for free. I send lawnmowers and lawn care crews down to cut the grass and do the landscaping and don't charge them. But on the reciprocal, when you need something, the members of those organizations will usually seek you out, patronize your business. You can't expect people to patronize you if you don't patronize them. And your number one person is your competitors. They should be your friends. You'll make more money with your friends and your other contractors and your competitors than you will searching and buying leads to sell to new people.
Awesome. Next question, how do you keep the momentum and avoid burnout while sustaining your growth, which I'm sure is very tricky?
Super challenging. And we got to meet because you can show me some grant writing. That's great. The thing that's going to burn you out the most is money. It's cash capital, right? Cash capital wears you out on a daily basis. But you got to remember that you're no good to your business, your organization, if you're burnt out, if you're tired, if you're frustrated. You have to love what you built, and there's days that you're not going to love what you built. It's kind of like a marriage or like being a parent, right? There's good days, there's bad days, but the one thing you can never do is give up. The one thing that you can never do is dwell on all the failures, because you're going to fail a lot. When you own a business and you run a business, you have to be comfortable with failure. You just have to win more days than you lose. That's my mantra. With my employees, with anybody I work with, you're not going to win every day, and you got to be okay with that, but you have to win more days than you lose.
This is a heavy question. There's so many answers. So a couple weeks ago, we were really stressed out. We went through an incredibly busy, unexpected season, and we ended up going to the dollar store, buying a puzzle for like 50 cents on clearance, and spent 2 or 3 days putting it together on our dining room table. And the kids are looking at us like, what are you guys doing? Aren't you supposed to be working? But it was nice. It was a really good reset, and I think you kind of touched on it somewhere. Why are you doing this? There are going to be days where you absolutely don't want to, when I don't even want to hear about microgreens. I don't care about edible flowers. I just want to like coast and have it easy. And we kind of built our production schedule. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are really busy. Monday and Tuesday are kind of like whatever we need them to be. And that was the puzzle day. It was just like we looked at puzzles. The kids came off their devices. We did puzzles. My dad came over to visit. We did the puzzle. And it wasn't about the puzzle. It was just the downtime, taking a break.
Yeah, I think, like Jeremy said, you have to have a passion for what you're doing, because it's amazing the work that goes into it. And if, I'm not joking when I say, like, we're probably working, I know I'm working about 80, 90 hours a week, and I don't get a heck of a lot of sleep. And so I think it is important to remember, like, why you're doing it. And some people go into business strictly for money, and that's fine. If that's your goal, then stick to your goal. But if you're going to help people, or something like, we're doing it to really help people, to put the patients first. And it's easy to hold on to the passion for the most part, but there are days that it's really going to stress you. Like, there's always obstacles, and you have to say, like, why am I doing this? And what are my foundations? Like, we're founded on God. Our clinic's founded on God, and 4 pillars that we did on that foundation of, like, putting the patient first, making sure that we're treating staff well, giving back to the community, and allowing any student of any age to come and be mentored by us for anything. And on those days that things get bad, you just have to go back and you say, what am I here for? Am I attaining that goal? if I'm not attaining that goal, to change it. Like Jeremy was saying, like, you have to go off the plan. Quitting is for winners in the fact that there's some things that aren't going to work for you. And those times that you get like totally overwhelmed are those times you get to reflect and say, what part of this business, like what part do I have to quit to make it work better? And it's just refining and refining and refining. But if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, look for something you have a passion for. Your passion might be making money, but you need to have something that's going to hold you in it when the money's not coming.
I also, there's a lot of different directions we can go with this, but what I think about is last year I did engage with burnout after June. I did so much from January to June that I physically got sick from June 6th all the way up to July 5th. And I didn't realize that I was that sick until my schedule was done. I hit that last, like, this is the last thing I need to do, and for 2 weeks, I can choose what I need to do. And I slept for 12 hours. I woke up, and I was like, I feel so much better. Like, all the sinuses went away, my eyes were more dilated. Like, I didn't realize I was also extremely dehydrated. Like, I tore myself up. Am I proud of it? No, but I wanted to say yes to all these opportunities. And in those moments, I go, how did I get here? Because on top of running a business, I'm also a doctoral candidate and have my own other things to do. You have your own family to do. It's not just a business, it's your life, right? And so for me, I was always saying yes to so many different things, and I wasn't respecting the boundaries I put up for myself that I said, I'm going to do. You wake up, you're like, I'm going to only do this today. The two things I realized that helped me now no longer get to that stage is everything is work, which sounds tiring, but when you love what you do, it's not. And when I say everything is work, I mean going to the bank, yeah, that's work. It's making sure you mentally check that down, even though it's for a second. Yeah, going to a meeting for lunch, yeah, that's work. Yeah, having a 15-minute phone call with somebody to take a lead, yeah, that's work. Even though for myself, it doesn't feel like work. Like it's just a phone call. Yeah, it's some meeting notes. Yeah, we'll do it, no problem. And I no longer use the phrase, I have free time. I don't. No time of mine is free. You have to pay for every ounce of it. However, the mindset I get into is, am I available? And I don't mean, am I available with work? If I'm like, nope, this evening I'm in sweatpants, I'm in front of my TV, I'm ordering pizza, and I am binge watching whatever show I am, that is me time, that is the time I have, I am not available. And I started pushing back on those boundaries when people were like, can you do this, can you do that? Nope, I cannot. But we can reschedule, and I can get you up next week or next day or in 2 hours after instead of now. And I made sure I prioritized myself first and then did my business.
It's hard to achieve that work-life balance. If you could go back to the beginning when you were starting your businesses, is there anything that you would do differently? Everything.
Like what we know now?
It's a great question, and so my wife and I do this thing. It's an app to keep your relationship strong. And one of the questions was, if you could change anything in your life, would there be anything in your life that you'd want to change? And I thought about it, and I pondered it, and it's a yes or no, and then you could put notes in there. And I didn't want to put yes, and I didn't want to put no, and I put everything that I did has brought me to where I am at in this moment right now. If I change any decision prior to that, the learning piece that I had to go with it is gone. And so no, I wouldn't change anything because it shapes your character and it shaped your ability to say, this is my red time. I need time for me. And if you didn't get that when you were growing, you're going to run into that when you're too big and then you're going to fall on your face.
What was the question again?
If you were doing it all over again, is there anything that you would change in your journey?
That was a great answer. It's hard to follow that. trust ourselves more. Like I said, we signed up for all the courses because we had imposter syndrome, and we're like, okay, we got to just fake it till we make it. And then we kind of, okay, here's the thing, don't conform. Like, we tried to fit what we wanted to do in somebody else's mold, and it didn't work out. And so it was just kind of the whole stare thing. You know, we would try something, stuff would go crazy, and then we're like, wait a minute, that it didn't work out the way that we wanted, or whatever. Or, you know, this thing that was supposed to be the golden ticket, there was no gold. And so we kind of had to reevaluate. And so many times after those steps, we just realized if we would have just stuck to what was in our mind or in our heart originally, we could have taken the shortcut there. But we thought, or maybe people were telling us you're crazy, or, you know, it's going to work a different way. And it's not, it stinks, because when you make mistakes, you learn. We have learned a lot. And so it's hard. I totally agree with, you know, you don't want to change anything, because then you wouldn't be who you are, you wouldn't be where you are. But at the same time, you look back and you think, oh my gosh, we wasted so much time. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a combination of just trusting yourself and keeping your eyes open for, you know, what needs to change and what could be better, and continuous improvement type stuff.
We're a big athletic family, and I used to be on the sidelines for my children, and I'd yell down to them onto the field. I'd be like, screw up big, and people are like, what are you saying? And I was always telling my kids, take these crazy risks, take these amazing falls, because you will see what you're capable of doing. And I would say, I mean, I definitely did a lot of that starting the business. I am a negotiator, and I negotiated crazy things. If you're someone who needs to negotiate for your business, come talk to me, because I am a master at it. It's laughable what I've gotten people to do for the business. But I wish I had done that more. I wish I had taken bigger risks and grown faster, and just, we let norms dictate what we're doing. If you just go in there and you throw like just rules to the side and you just go for it, you're going to accomplish so much, and you're going to fall flat on your face a lot. But like, we see all these inventors, how many times they screwed up, but we don't know them for the screw ups. We know them for their successes, and that was probably like 1% of their whole life. So I wish I had taken more risks, higher falls. And what's the worst going to happen? You're going to lose your business. So what? You can start another business with a lot more knowledge. So go for the stars. Don't let anything limit you.
Kind of going off of what these three amazing people said, I would also, one, I technically would not change anything because I learned a lot on my way. However, if I could change anything, it would be to be less hesitant. Because I already have a plan. I already know what I want to do. I'm a very firm person. When I have an answer, that's the answer. But what I noticed is my hesitantness stopped me from making that post, stopped me from reaching out, stopped me from emailing someone. And the things that I was hesitant for was, well, what could they say? Or what if they come back with a question? And I found out I used to be scared of success. I feared success. I did not fear failure ever. Like, I don't care about failing. I cared about succeeding. And I cared about it so much I was afraid that I could succeed wrong. And so that hesitant is where I learned when I was starting that you can't be hesitant, you just have to do it. And how I became full-time in my business was because I got laid off. I had no other options. It was either go work for someone else or work for myself. But I already had 2 years of working for myself on the side. So I said, okay, that was my moment of I can't be hesitant anymore. I just have to do it, and whatever happens, happens. And a prime example, and I'll use social media because I'm working on branding, right? 2 years ago, I was at 3,000 followers on my TikTok account. I'm at 35 5,000 followers today because I stopped being hesitant. I stopped caring what people thought, and I said, this is the message I have, this is the work that I do, this is who I am. And I have grown that because of that.
Awesome. And I think maybe we touched on some of this, but what is one piece of advice you would give someone who's trying to turn their idea into action right now?
I mean, okay, for me, if you don't know how to do it, find someone that can do it, but like in support. And I'm actually I'm gonna use a good friend, Jackie, who is with the SBDC, because I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know what to do. And meeting her, not only did she teach me the skills to run a business, because I'm not a business owner, I'm an educator, she taught me to value myself more. And so finding the right support that fits you will be a game changer. And so find someone who's going to root for you, going to cheer for you, while also reminding you, like, if they don't say no to your direction, they say, here's your direction, but just know it will change.
I think the advice I would give was to find the resources that you need to start the business. I talked about the Small Business Development Center helping with my business plan, and there are many organizations that will be able to actually help you, because you have to have a really strong foundation to build everything on. But even though there's a lot of people that say no, there's a lot of people that say yes. And you have to find those people, put them in your lives, and like things like this are huge, because you meet the people who you're going to need to use to help you with your business, and then in turn you're going to be able to help other people along the way too. And like just setting up that foundation of getting that help is really important. The people who fail are the ones who are trying to do it on their own, and you can't, like, there's so many things you can't do on your own. Like we talk about social media. Like, you just have to give some things away, but there are so many resources. You just have to be willing to fight to get them.
All I can think of in my mind right now is Vector from Despicable Me. Direction and magnitude. You got to move. You can't just sit still. And so whether you pray and wait or just take a leap of faith, you have to move at some point. You can plan, you can practice, you could take courses, but until you actually put yourself out there and take the steps and just kind of throw caution to the wind, I say that as a total planner, so don't get me wrong, but you have to just take the step, make the move, and go for it. And I'm very much of the same thought. I like big change, so if I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna mess up big, and if it's gonna go well, it's gonna go well big too. And I don't wanna kind of make a move and have it be like, well, I'm not sure if that worked. Let's do it big, so.
So I'll probably butcher the story, but back in the Roman times, when the Greeks would sail and land on an island and they were going to fight their war, the generals would burn the boats. So my advice is burn your boats. Take away all your safeties, take away anything that's going to help you, and you will surprise yourself when you have no other option but to succeed, what you can do.
And I'm going to add in, there's never a perfect time to launch. Nothing's ever going to line up exactly how you want it to, so just, as Gail said, jump in, and jump in big, apparently. So, my last question that I have for you is, what excites you most about the role your business plays in shaping our community and our region?
Well, mine goes back to the networking piece. I really like having the opportunity to give back to local organizations. And I was always an athlete. My kids still play sports, but to give back where they don't have to spend their money on field maintenance, or to give back where they don't have to take away from jerseys, or they don't have to get grants. Like, someone local in the community cares enough about where the future of the youth goes. So a buddy of mine and I talk about this. We've learned so much through organized sports, whether it's leadership, whether it's teamwork, whether it's just being disciplined enough to go to something and learning not to give up on something, that if we don't build structures like that and we don't put things in place, then we're failing the future generations. There's not going to be business owners.
Talking about our faith. So my husband Luke tells a story of walking into a store with a shirt that said Jesus is King on it or something like that. And the girl behind the counter kind of reached over and she was like, "You're a believer too?" And it was like, we don't have to be quiet about it. You know, we can talk about our faith and how it guides what we do. And does it mean we're perfect? No. My husband is far from perfect. I am a total disaster at sometimes, but we try and get it right. Jesus is our guiding light, and that is something that we don't want to be ashamed of. We want to talk about it. And the funny thing is, we have people that, you know, don't buy from us for that reason, but we also have people that buy from us only for that reason. And so at first it's a little scary because you think, all right, you're going to be deplatformed, you're going to be canceled or whatever, but there's a lot of people out there that believe the same thing that we do, and it's just nice to talk about it out in the open and not be afraid. So there you go.
I think it's really important that as small business owners, we give back to the community, and in many, many layers of that, in like many different ways. And like Jeremy said, a lot of these communities are dependent on their small businesses to do that. And gosh knows, like corporate America is not helping the small communities. So it's really important, and it helps if you go in with a business plan that has that as one of your tenets, that you are going to do that and you budgeted money for that, and then you're not stressed out about it. It has to be part of your plan, like Gail was saying, like, you know, giving back to God financially is in our plan. Giving back to the community is in our plan. Giving to marketing is in our plan. So we have to figure out like what we want, and then we go backwards. Well, how are we going to, we are going to pay for this. So what do we need to do with the business to pay for that? And it's important. We are the ones who keep the communities going.
For myself, what excites me is knowing that real impact and change has happened because of the work that I do, my business, my organization. I have hugged more people in my life than I ever thought I would. I have heard people and have the letters and messages that tell me I saved their life. I am a person who built a business not because I wanted money, but because I was a person who felt isolated in my own community. There wasn't enough education out there. There wasn't enough interaction with people. How we speak to each other matters. What we say about each other matters. And so when I created the service that I did, it was in that mindset of I don't ever want to hear someone in my community say they feel alone, they feel that they're not accepted, that they can't be who they are because someone else said so. And so what I have gotten back and what makes me wake up every day is knowing that I am a person that I would have loved to see when I was younger.
Well, I want to thank all of you for your insights. I know it resonated with a lot of people who are here in the audience, and we really appreciate your time as small business owners in coming out and spending some time with us today. If we can give them a round of applause. If anybody has questions for any of the panelists, we can take the microphone around, and you are welcome to ask your questions. Don't be shy.
Thank you. Really found this to be very educational. Thank you all. So my question maybe is for the SBDC. So say you have a business idea. At what point do you go to the next stage of developing that business plan? Do you do that with the SBDC, or should we come to you with a already formed business plan?
No, so you should have an idea. We can't tell you what business to choose, obviously, but have your idea and your passion. We have what we call our First Step program, and that goes through everything from how you get your business registered, licensed. We talk about personal readiness. We talk about financial readiness. We talk about the path that you'll take depending on what your business is, and then help you put that all together. And people say, well, how long does it take? It can take, depending on the person and the business and what's needed, a couple of weeks. But if it's something really, that's more of a heavy lift, it can take a couple of months. But I think, as some of the panelists said, the biggest thing is to create that strong foundation and don't jump into it really quickly. And I always throw out this one statistics. And that's a small business who works with the Small Business Development Center is 80% more likely to be in business 8 years after they started than someone who did not work with an SBDC. And I say that, I think that's because of all the planning and the foundation work that goes into it. So no, you don't have to have everything written down. We'll guide you through the process and get you started.
I just want you all to know I think you're all amazing up there, and you did just such a great job. But we were talking about pivoting before, and so now we're in the world of AI. Has your small business been implementing AI into your platform, into your business plan?
For me, I can say no, but in the sense of how my business doesn't necessarily need to use it, but I add on to my services of how you can use AI within what I teach. So do I know, will my business use AI? No, there are certain things that I disagree with of how it can harm the environment. However, I'm still a consumer, right? Like, I still do business. So when someone asks me, we're going to use AI and we want to talk about relationship building and workplace dynamic, I'm like, okay, and they want to do a script or something. I've been hired to actually go in and edit for them and do that work. So that way, when they put it back into AI, it shows more reflective of a human response and not that overall response. So that's how I've adapted to it and using it as a way for me to get more business.
This is a great and timely question. We are going through a huge change at our clinic right now because we have what's called electronic medical record system. It involves registration, documentation, billing, and our system wasn't keeping up with the changes, and it wasn't incorporating AI, it wasn't incorporating online scheduling, and you have to have that today. You cannot have a business without social media today. You cannot have it. And so it's crazy how big this project is. We have 6 weeks to train our staff on this new system, and these systems are incredibly expensive. And we have a go live date of June 8th. But this new system is going to incorporate AI into being able to document without having to type everything in ourselves. And it's going to include our website and our social media sites and connect them all and have people register online. Because I work with a lot of the older population, but the newer population does not want to make a phone call to schedule an appointment. And they don't want to have to call to do anything. They want to do everything online. If I don't change with those times, I'm done. So yeah, we are definitely incorporating. It's a huge change. It is a big expense, and it's an absolute necessary.
So I view AI as a tool, and I believe if you are in the marketplace right now and you don't use every tool available, you can't compete. Do I agree with the ethics of AI and where it could potentially go if there are no guardrails? No, absolutely not. It's very concerning. from an environmental standpoint, it's concern, there's so many concerns, it's crazy. But like I just said, I don't know that there is really a good method of being competitive in the market without it. So that said, our business depends on a lot of repetitive processes. It's very process oriented as far as our production. We've used AI from everything to help us troubleshoot, how to get our chocolate recipe perfect, and it's fantastic. It works really well. Just again, a lot of the repetitive processes that we need to really fine tune, AI does it quicker than, anything else. So it's kind of unfortunate to have a crutch like that, but at the same time, it's a very valuable tool for us. So yeah, we do use it.
So I use AI a lot. On any given day, you're doing two types of tasks. You have busy tasks and you have productive tasks. And AI really helps with getting rid of the busy tasks. Marketing is a busy task. Social media is not for people to see your posts, it's for the Google algorithms to read your posts. It's to get you higher on your Google rankings. So I use my AI to create a battle rhythm, to create posts, and it's a nonsensical, it's a non-thinking thing. I don't have to use any brain power. Copy and paste it into my planner on my social media, and then I move forward. At the end of the day, though, there's concerns with AI, right? You have to make sure that you're not putting all your personal business stuff in open source AI. So if you have ChatGPT like everybody else, you need to pay for something. You need to make it closed source. And you have to remember that you're still the subject matter expert. There's plenty of times, and my wife laughs at me because I'm like, you're an idiot, and I'll type you're an idiot to AI because sometimes it makes tasks even longer. Like just doing a branded client facing proposal, and you do them every single day, and it takes you a half an hour just to get the logo on it. You have to know how to manipulate through it. So don't get lost with it. Use it as a tool. Don't ever become dependent on it where you're no longer the subject matter expert.
Thank you guys all so much. I feel like I'm in the mix of it right now. My husband and I just launched our business about 2 months ago. And so I am the gas pedal and he is the brake. And where we're at now is, what were your decision? I'm looking at the patterns in our business plan and how things are going, and the money is there and it's coming, but I think bigger risk, bigger reward is my motto. So what was your decision to get more capital or apply for a loan, or, we're applying for grants, because that's part of my background, so applying for some grants. What was your point of decision where you're like, okay, we're gonna do it, we're gonna get a loan, we're gonna get more capital?
So for the first time that I applied for additional capital for the business was when I was unable to spend 7 days a week working at the business. So obviously I had more downtime, so I had to finance the days that I wasn't there. I made it through, I paid those off, and then I did more financing when I came back full-time, which was to get a larger piece of equipment to go into a different sector, since I had more time to be there. Now, where I'm at, it's a two-part growth. I can grow the business again, or I can sustain the business and grow the business with employees versus assets, and I can borrow money to make static income. That should be your ultimate goal, right? So most of your money in small business is on the way out. Most small businesses, you don't make any money until you sell it at the end. What you should be doing after your first initial growth phase 1 or phase 2 is start buying assets that make money when you're sleeping. Because otherwise, it's just going to be the same continuous rat race, and you're going to continue to look for capital so you can continue to grow, so you could pay for the growth you couldn't afford before, and you're in a giant hamster wheel. At some point, you need an asset that's going to make money, and you have to diversify.
Don't have something that sounds as educated as that. It was sort of continuous risk analysis. Can we do better on our own than we can working our jobs? And so this whole thing with Back Mountain Microgreen started with my husband as a side gig, and eventually we got to the point where it was like, all right, well, it's kind of at the point where it's either a side gig or it's not. And it's like, well, if we take it all the way, is it gonna be more than a side gig? Is it gonna be able to support us? And I think, my parents thought I was crazy when I left my job, but the decision that we made based on what we were looking at was that we thought the potential was better financially in business together rather than not. And so that's the route we went. So I would say for us specifically, it was, where is the potential? Is the outlook good? What are we basing that decision on? And it was just kind of reevaluating that. Again, like I said, looking at the data, we have like a repetitive process. Every 3 months, we look at what we did the 3 months prior. And if what we're working is panning out financially, we move forward. And the really good thing about that is that we have like a whole track record. Like, okay, where are we going? We're not out of options yet. There are still plenty of options for us to expand our market. And so that's kind of where we're at. It's like we're not stuck in one place, and as long as we can kind of keep moving forward. And that was originally a really big risk, and it's starting to pay off a little bit at a time. So it was terrifying at first, but we, kind of looked at the data and thought, all right, it looks like it could maybe be good, and we went for it. So very good.
I'm kind of laughing through this conversation because from the outside, businesses usually look good. They look like they're making money. But I'm telling you, if you're not comfortable with only having $400 in a business account, this is not the adventure for you. Yeah. And it's so funny because when I went into this, I had almost perfect credit. I was amazing. Everything was paid on time. I'm not joking when I said I probably had a 849 credit. Now I can't even tell you how much money comes in and out of this clinic every month. And I have the worst credit I've ever had in my life. If I wanted to go for a capital loan, I don't think I could qualify for it. But I can qualify for grants, and I could qualify for laughter. You just have to figure it out. And like I said before, I don't let anything be my no. If this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it, regardless of what that means. So I don't pay myself maybe or whatever. The business pays for all my expenses, and I don't take home a paycheck or something for a while. You just do what you have to do, but you really have to be comfortable with, freaking having no money. And you're like, well, like you were saying, one day, this is going to be great because I'm going to sell this business and I'm going to have a ton of money. But in the meantime, not so much. So if you're really wanting to have a business that makes lots of money, pick well, because we're one of the most successful clinics in the Valley, and we are big. And yeah, no, it's not there. It's not what I thought it would be bringing in. And thank God that's not where my focus is. That's not where my importance lies. But yeah, some people will qualify for capital loans, which is great. And you'll know when you have to because you don't have any other choice. You either get stuck in working your butt off too hard for too long. You either have to back off or go forward. And if you back off, you say goodbye to your business. Because if your business is going low, you're done. You just haven't recognized it yet. You haven't agreed to that yet. It's going. If you're going down, you're done.
It really depends on what kind of business you're running. So I run an e-commerce business. So for myself, I've only really done one grant that was to get equipment for one of the programs that I had. But when I think about sort of to answer your question on a different way of diversifying your revenue, which Jeremy sort of touched on this, is do one thing at a time. Don't do 4 different things. If these 4 bins are going to make you money and you only have the capacity to do one of them, you have to make the choice of which one should I start with? Because that's what I did. I have a tour that I do for my audience of colleges that makes me about 40 grand a year. That's doing so well, I can now switch to an LMS system that my education will be through a system that will be more automated. So that hopefully will pull in another 20 grand. And then that's also not on top of my speaking fees, those little things, those other trainings, those corporate trainings that don't come into regularly that I'm now focusing on. So I had to pick a direction first and hope it worked. But when you were talking about bank accounts, I was like, But you find a flow that works for you. So for me, I've only ever applied for my business for one grant, but I will say look into contract work too. My business is certified under NGLCC, a diversity for LGBT business owners, and that also opened doors for me to apply for government contracts, which is a whole different ballpark.
I just want to add this. When I started my business, I did not qualify for a small business administration loan, even though I had tons of assets and I had that 849 credit score. I didn't qualify because I'm married and they wanted my husband to co-sign the loan, which I wouldn't allow, and because he wasn't part of the business, so I wouldn't allow that. And they also wanted to use our house as collateral, and I wouldn't allow that. And so I could not get a small business administration loan. And here I am today because I negotiated with our landlord, hey, this is what I need for you to do for me, and you need to pay for it ahead of time. And I understand that it's $50,000 in build-out costs, but I will pay that back over the next 5 years, and I'll make that lease 5 years, and I'll pay extra every month. And you know what? I found a landlord to do that. And I'm really good. I'm really good. And I found I maxed out on every single one of my credit cards, and everybody in my life was saying, you can't max out on your credit cards. That was like $36,000 in credit card. That's a lot of credit card in my world where you pay it off every month. And as a matter of fact, Paul's in the audience. It was Paul's mother, who is one of my best friends. She said to me, what do you care if you're paying 30% interest rate if you're making this much money and you're going to be able to pay it back? Right? And the interest is tax deductible. Who cares? If you're making that back and able to pay it back and start your business, do it. And then I contacted an equipment company and I said, I'll buy a boatload of equipment for you if you will finance it over 10 years. And guess what? I found a company that would finance it over 10 years. I was in so much debt when I wanted to go skydiving. My husband was like, you get an insurance policy, big time. And I did. I got that too. So I'm telling you, the money might not be there, but it's somewhere. You got to find it. And who cares about the ones that say no? You know, because all that challenge, I opened the business.
I'm going to just jump in with one thing. I think what Gail had mentioned earlier, that her husband had kind of done this as a side gig. And I think testing the waters is important to see if it's going to be a viable business. And if you see that you're, you know, on the right track and everything is going in the direction that you want it to go, if you can, you know, do it this way, and you're building some momentum, more than likely you're going to be ready at that point. You might be ready at that point to then go for a loan to any of the lenders in the area. And one thing that I would also say in terms of getting the no as an answer, we always find too that one bank might say no, maybe because they have too many restaurants in their portfolio. They just don't have the appetite for another one. But the next bank down the street might say, absolutely, we would be happy to do this. So there are a lot of different things, but I think testing the waters, making sure you're going to have a good cash flow going, and you're ready to grow and really jump in, that's probably the time that you can seek financing if you need it. We'll have one more question. Nope, we're not having one more question. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for being here today.
I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Dorothy for being our moderator today. And Dorothy, yes. And also Dorothy and her team at the Small Business Development Center have brought us this wonderful group of entrepreneurs with us to be with us today. So I want to thank them as well. I also want to thank our panelists for offering insight today and providing advice and bringing us along your business journey. It was very insightful, so let's give them another round of applause. And of course, we have another big thank you to Wilkes-Barre Lunchbox for sponsoring our Spotlight events, so we appreciate your support. And finally, a gentleman that you cannot see but is very vital to this program is Dan Kimbrough. He is with Park Multimedia, and he helps us with all of our technical needs and our live streaming. So thank you, Dan.
I got you there when the sun dies, till the day shines. When I'm with you, there's not enough time. You are my spring flower, watching you.
That's okay. Just a couple of housekeeping. Why won't this work? Pardon? Okay, just want to bring to your attention our Honor Veterans